Our great Nigerians, wonderful viewers, welcome to another edition of your program, favorite program, Issues of the Moment. Today we're back again, and in today's program, as usual, we have a wonderful analyst in the house. And from my immediate left, I have Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi. Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi is a historian. He is also a public affairs analyst and a televangelist. Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi is a man who loves dealing with numbers and figures. Comrade, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's always my privilege to be here. Good day, our viewers.
From my far left, I have not just a new person in this program. You've heard much about him right from our radio station 90.9, and even today, he is polymath, Mr. Felix. Mr. Felix is a biochemist and also a media person. He is also a political and a public affairs analyst. Mr. Felix, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, today we are looking at Abia State Governor Dr. Alex Oti, who has appointed a new rector for Abia State Polytechnic, Abia, and heads of other institutions and other agencies in the state. Today we are going to concentrate on the Abia State Polytechnic because of what that college has suffered, lately. Recently, after the appointment of the lady who had been in that field of polytechnics, it looks as if they are now heaving a sigh of relief shortly before this new appointment. According to the press release by the Chief Press Secretary to Mr. Governor Kaze Uko, the new rector is Dr. Christopher Okoro. Until his appointment, Dr. Okoro was a senior lecturer in the Department of Biochemistry at the Michael Okpara University of Agriculture. First, we are going to look at how has Abia Polytechnic fared? Is it as a result of importation of non-polytechnic experts, or is it just a natural mayhem? I'm going to start with you, Comrade.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can look at from various perspectives. The governor has powers vested by the Constitution, which is the power to appoint. Making appointments also include parastatals, board agencies within the state ministries and offices. So when he makes appointments there, he's in line with the size of it. But what we have to look at is the quality of appointments being made. Whether we are putting square pegs and round holes, or we are putting competent hands in strategic positions to man necessary and sensitive offices. We have to do each type of duties, which will also go a long way to creating a stable environment, especially if it is academic environment. I do not have any problem with the appointment of who has been as an associate professor, whose academic and space covers or straddles the Department of Engineering, because he's someone who's interested in what they call advanced control system and then in the embedded artificial intelligence. Then a lecturer, like I said, the Department of Microbiology, Michael University, with standing years of experience and scholarship and research to his credit. While all that is beautiful, he's been involved in a lot, even Erasmus program shortly before the appointment. While all that are beautiful, what one has to take into consideration is the administrative know-how, because administrative know-how is different from academic know-how. One can be a good researcher, one can be an authority in the field, one can be anything, one can be, in fact, a doyen, you understand, or epitome of knowledge in any particular field. But that does not go to say when appointed in an administrative capacity, they may do well. If you look at administration, you see that yes, there is some level of exposure and training, and then ability to absorb and then manage risk, and then take critical decisions. may be required. But you look at it, see that it's not just about degrees. There are people who are money-sensitive positions who have even invented a lot of things in this world, but may not have all that degrees. So what we are looking at is the place where Abia State Polytechnic is. From successful administration, we've been having problems, including the number of staff. We were told the other day that there are over 20 persons or staff members who constitute the personnel that man only 2 gates. So all these things are bureaucratic bottlenecks. So how the governor streamlines and efficiently maps out the admission of that school through appointments he makes will be very, very creative in terms of the output the institution is supposed to give us.
All right. Okay. Polymath. Looking at it, it's just like when you talk about College of Education and then getting a university done to manage it, and you know the courses there are quite different, and they dict that establishes the polytechnic and that of the university. They all stand aloof of each other. So now looking at this, do you think the appointment or importation of a rector from a university to a polytechnic is proper?
Well, I wouldn't want to say much about that because I think the governor himself has reasons for his appointment, and for him to have elected or supposedly appointed someone, he or she must have gone through a proper scrutiny. I think with that, he knows what he needs better. I think taking up Dr. Christopher Okoro as his choice, I think he has something he sees in him, and definitely intends to work towards that. But one more thing I think we should look at is the procedures involved in appointing some persons in this present government. But the possibility of using the system of the universities and that of the polytechnic is going to be a very tough one, because I think there are two different segments of I think of the university or the higher tertiary institutional patterns. If you agree with me, I think it is still going to be a tough one for Dr. Kuru, because the ways or the processes involved in the university sides of education is quite and much more different from what we are going to see now at the polytechnic. But I think with time, he will definitely have to succumb to the system, and thank God he's not the only one appointed. He has his bodies, his executive bodies, and the rest of that. So with that, they can be able to push him forward to get a positive result.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the members of the council when we come back on a break. But before we all talk about break, comrade.
Yeah.
Now, looking at this, there is in those days what we call academic bastardization. That is when you appoint a lawyer as a minister of agriculture. They are all graduates, and they know their onions and so on. And that is exactly what we are looking at with this appointment.
Yeah, I think, yes, I understand where you're coming from, because the polytechnic is a different academic environment or tertiary environment from the university. In most cases, you see that the university may be focusing on theoretical aspect, but in polytechnic, you're talking about applied fields. You understand? Where practical aspect of it is done and everything. Even in as much as the university at sometimes also contemplates practical aspect of life. But then, I do not think Governor Alex Oti is the first person to have appointed someone from the university.
No, it's not.
To the polytechnic. So I do not know why that culture is there, because I remember either Asongwa or who came from Abia State University, or someone who came from Abia State University or so, appointed by Governor. Yes, who came from. But I think
Hadi.
Yes, even Hadi.
The last.
I think Hadla. And I think if we are to be considerate enough, there was something that happened before the appointment of Okoro. There was a woman, I think, Chidima Matani Ndukwe,
yes,
who rose through the ranks, right? Because they actually made it clear in previous intervention that whenever someone vacates a position, the next in rank will actually occupy. That woman was a rector academics, just like you have VC academics or VC. they VC academics or something like that. So she was the director academics. And people accepted that it was a nice appointment. One that will do one that will break the glass ceilings in terms of gender and inclusion. But seeing that decision reversed, not because of age or want of other vital areas, is one of the things we have actually said here. Maybe the one is exercising his powers. But what I say is this: having academic background, you can have the best CV or the best resume, you can make the best research, you can make the best innovative finding, you can make breakthroughs, technological breakthroughs, findings, solve problems. But all that do not themselves translate to what? Administrative capacity. And when the government is making such appointments, preferences should be given to areas of competence where someone had actually been before and where they are coming from. But you see that in most cases in the past, like I've tried to establish, it's been so political. And remember the person who was there before Mata was actually appointed. So these are persons who perhaps may be seen as appointee of previous administration. You understand? And then, whenever the governor does, the most important thing is that rectors and VCs are allowed to serve out their terms. In this case, I have not heard that, but I am advocating that people in polytechnic be allowed to go through the ranks and manage the system.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot bring someone from, in most cases, it's even difficult to bring someone from state university to be VC in federal university, in most cases. So I think we have to make sure that we achieve this, because we are looking at academic peculiarities of different tertiary institutions of learning. So it wouldn't be bad if we have a system where people within that system are nurtured, bred, and they become administrators, having been there so far with long running years of experience. Different from what we've been having. I can go on and mention names of VCs who've been there, including those who have even interfaced with, who were appointed by the government. At a point, we saw happen in that polytechnic, in fact, even in Abia University, that a sitting governor will appoint someone from his kindred, someone among his kinsmen, to be the VC here at the State University, and then the rector in the polytechnic. So all these things are not what we want to see continue happening. Yes.
All right, Polyman, looking shortly before the import of our new governor, Alex Oti, London will hold about three years and something months, which the governor promised to, to settle before now. Before now, let us also look at this, because from the analysis comrade gave, it is obvious that we have had the code. I think immediately after Onoko.
Yes.
Immediately after Onoko, we had the code.
Yes, we had the code.
And then they've been
who was within the technical system.
Yeah, technical system.
Yes, and then so many other ones that came. Even also Hagla. Yes,
Hagla from Abia State University.
From the Abia State.
Where he is a lecturer in the law.
He's a lawyer.
Yes, in law faculty. Yes.
And in the polytechnic, they don't do law. Obvious reasons.
Yes.
And then I want us to look at what do you think has been the problem of this especially this Abia polytechnics? Don't you think that when there was something you said when you started about a square hole space,
a square peg and round. You asked a critical question. Remember that some time ago during the election, the governor of the former governor of the state made an appointment to some offices where he expected persons to be. But after the election, when his political party lost, he also dissolved the whole appointment. I'm talking about Governor and it affected Abia State Polytechnic. It also affected the School of
Health.
Yes, health. And then you begin to see politicization of even academic institutions, and it's not helping us to grow. That is why, in most cases, you mentioned here that salaries of about 3 years are being owed. Some persons within the tertiary institution will tell you that they are not being owed salaries. It happens.
All right, yes, I still want to come to it because immediately after that appointment on Tuesday, our correspondent also Garrett on visiting because as he was coming to work on Tuesday, saw these open vans of the soldiers and that of the police packed in front, and then when we stopped over to ask, nobody wanted to be properly identified. We thought the students were about going on riot, but not knowing that those police and army, they were invited by the incoming rector, who said he envisaged that the school were going to have a riot, and even when there was no such plan. So what do you think about that?
Well, let me state a little brief of I think what I think I know little about what transpired that day. Well, the truth is this, in most cases, Dr. Okoro himself has this phobia for the university, the tertiary institution he intends visiting. And for him to play, I think, to mind on the civil sides, he intends using the military corps as a means of protecting himself against danger. But the truth is this, I think, back to what...
Why the expectation of danger?
I think possibly maybe what he has heard from the mouth of the people and thereabout. But if we come to face realities, if you agree with me, the past rectors that we just mentioned before, you agree with me, they all played a massive role during their tenure. But the only fear I have for Dr. Okoro is that he is coming from a very clear view, which is from the university we all know, down to the polytechnic, just like what we've said. He's actually not the only one that's come from the university to man the polytechnic. Yes. We have the likes of Professor Kodne and the rest of them too. But what we are saying is this. The problem is the doctor we're talking about is Dr. Okoro, has what it takes to offer the polytechnic as a rector. Because
is that a question?
No, I'm trying to, there are so many things.
It's a cool question.
It is a terrible question. I'm trying to get some facts.
Okay.
I'm trying to get something. These are things I'm reasoning myself.
Okay.
While I keep it, because Dr. Okoro himself is, we all know his academical traits, and right from everything, he hasn't for once visited the polytechnic segments before. Looking at his profile, and coming to man as a rector to a polytechnic, Abia State Polytechnic, to me, I think it is really not a plus factor. And I think something has to be done, and that's the reason why I had to make mention about the body, which is the bodies involved with him to be able to man that same segment we're talking about. So if the body is thick and okay, definitely we might see him succeeding. But we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I think he has something positive to offer. Looking at his vibrancy, his academical qualifications, and his doggedness, sagaciousness, and the rest of them. I think with that, I see him doing something positive.
All right, yeah, comrade, do you have anything to add on that? Starting with the police, starting with members of police and army.
Well, in Nigeria, we have this penchant for the way we deploy the paraphernalia of power and offices. And I keep saying it, and I do tell you this often. I say, in Nigeria, people are not elected or appointed to offices. They are appointed or elected into power. So we still ask the question, which government is in power? Which president is in power? It's not even in authority. But if you look at the two, authority is legitimate. Power is not legitimate. So people who exercise power try to do a lot of things to legitimize their office, including going the extra mile by using kinetic forces in most cases. As sort of the hangover of military rule, we are still suffering from the effect of military rule, whether like it or not. It's not only limited to him. There are people, there are commissioners who have retinue longer dispatch riders and rest of them than the governors. You understand? So I do not know, but maybe it may be a fear thing, just like you say, phobia about new environment, phobia about the place you are coming to. Just like that proverbial saying about amongst our people, that the hen says if it comes to a strange place, he stands first to take with one leg to ascertain or to know whether owners of the land walk with one leg or two legs. That's it again, I think, and it's also part of the things we actually see, because someone was actually coming to a new environment where they had not been before. I do not know whether there is this thing about envisaging that there will be already those who are anti-block. Let me tell you this, whether or not we like it, I've been in the academic field, which you know very well, during further studies at Oka, many places. And I will say this, there are blocks in the tertiary institution. There are the lecturers, the dons who are for the governor. There are those who are against the governor. There are those who feel that they are academic in nature and make researches, while others are political in nature, to be appointed into plum offices with all the appurtenances thereof. It happens in the system. You understand?
Yes.
So what are you talking about? In fact, even tribalism happens. Now at the point we are having a project system where in Oka, and I was there then at that moment, it had to do with the church and then other academics. The Catholic Church in Mbise said someone from Anambra would not be their bishop. I hear Mbise. And at the point they barricaded the church. They barricaded the church. But at that same point, someone from Mbise became a VC at Oka. So how do you reconcile the both? So it is something that even the governor had to begin to exhibit, not to preach, that a governor can walk into this place without much paraphernalia, gaudy display of security agencies. Because in most cases, you see, if you have ever seen someone, we've been in this state from the time of Otis Okado, despite that we will actually advance even before them. You will even have, even Otis Okado is actually using even Bakassi. You understand? Yes. The vigilance service of the state, they will advance before him. You will have coastal, you will have police, you will have navy, you will have everything, as if we are in a war condition. And I dare you to look at the security details of Imo State governor. At the point I was there for press conference, and we saw that they even had armored vehicle in the conference of the governor. At the point he was sworn in newly. So what I'm trying to say is that people who are appointed to offices must treat that office as a place of authority, not a place of power, so that they can exercise authority, not naked power as we know it. And this should also apply to the polytechnic newly appointed rector. Nobody is fighting war, nobody is planning to stage a riot or violence or anarchy. You understand? And nobody is trying to incite any. So if it was on assumption or on the premise or basis of intelligence, it might have been wrong.
All right, talking about nepotism or tribalism. At a point in this state, there was a time both the rector of all the tertiary institutions, they were all from a particular zone in Abia State.
Yes, I know.
You are aware of that?
Yes.
Yes, because then Abia Polytechnic was the man I just mentioned.
Yes.
Now who is in Ohafia now? Mobile. No. Abia Polytechnic.
Okay.
Was El Damnoko.
Oh yes.
Abia State University was Chibuzo, College of College of Education.
Education. Yes.
The technical was Ujuku, and then our College of Health was Dr. Belebu, all from the same zone. And I think this is for fear of what? When we are talking about Abias, all of us are Abias and so on. But it has been so. But this time I think our amiable governor is going to do something different this period. We are going to go on a very short break. When we come back, issues of the moment will continue. When we come back, we are going to look at the appointment of this governing council. How have they helped the economic growth of a polytechnic? Do they siphon and diddle the economy, or do they help the economic vibrance of the polytechnics? Don't just get away. We'll be back shortly. Wonderful viewers and listeners of Living Television, I am glad you're still there, still your favorite program, Issues of the Moment. And at this second segment, we are going to look at the appointment of the governing council in Abia State Polytechnics. Like I said earlier, how has Abia State Polytechnic fared with these numerous councils? Within this few period, Alex Oti, the governor of Abia State, appointed this woman who had been there without a council members. The members of this member staff have been very happy with us. Now, we have resumed with the council members. In the council members, we have the chairman Stanley Egege, and also we have Uchechukwu Job Iweha as member, Rose Mbara Nelson as member, and Mrs. Lorenza Onyemachi as member. And then these are the members while you have one chairman. What is the supposed function of these council members? And are they doing it? And then how have it contributed to the financial growth of that institution? Let me start with you, Conrad.
Yes, I think the governing council ought to be there because it's the decision, in fact, a high panel, in fact, the highest decision-making level of the institution. Yes, institution, including as it may have to do with academic activities, even administrative activities too. And in most cases, you see, they are there to also help advise the rector. If it is in the polytechnic, then in the universities, some of the universities call them senates. They also help to advise the VCs and alternative course of action. I have to say this, you see, we've been having problems, like I said before, and my brother has established that politicization of the high institution. And this has become a problem that in most cases you see that the council may be working and count with the executive, the state executive. And that's why I said, you mentioned here that salary areas of about 3 years are standing to the credit of these persons and have not been paid actually. In most cases you see that people in the council are projecting a different thing entirely to portray the governor or any person in charge as being magnanimous, even when they are not such. I have to also state this categorically. We've come to a point where we begin to advocate autonomy of tertiary institutions. You may hear University of California or any university. The governor of California does not even have much in terms of to be there. And that's why until we are able to divest some of the powers we invest in the government, you understand? We may not have universities or tertiary institutions work the way they ought to work for the betterment of the society. The other day, I did talk about endowment funds. I say in America, for example, the endowment funds of Harvard University, or let me say, those of the Ivy Leagues, the endowment funds outweigh what you have combinedly for Abia State University, Imo State University, or eventually Imo State University. You see that's why they are able to break through, to make researches, to bring about, to carry out researches and then come to conclusion or findings, because they have working and independent councils as the or authorities as the school as the case may be, empaneled by also independent body, not necessarily by a political actor. You understand? In which case it may be a governor or the president. Mind you, what happens at the state level also happens at the federal level. You understand? So you remember the thing that when the governor was talking, he said he was going to clear the pension areas on or before December of last year. But when you see, politicians campaign in prose and govern in they campaign in poetry and govern in prose. You see, when he was campaigning, he said he would clear the backlog on or before December. But when he became governor, he said, I never knew that there were still outstanding. I'm talking about pension. Pension. As far back as 2014 and 2015, people had not been pensioned. Pensionable citizens have not been receiving this. So it's one of the problems. Either the state polytechnic is also affected. It's in this quagmire of non-payment salaries.
All right, Polyman. Now, looking at this, what do you think is the benefit? He has analyzed a little about it, because in Abia State Polytechnic, we understand that by the edict, it's supposed to be about 3 times a year or thereabout. But most often, we discover that they sit almost every month, and each time they sit, whether salaries are paid or not, they go home with a huge amount of money, each sitting. So, are they helping the polytechnics or not?
Well, I'm so much interested in these, the governing council in Abia State Polytechnic. But before then, let me reverse back to the previous administrations. During the time of Dr. Okezi Bazo, I think I have an uncle who was actually the chairman of the governing council by name, Elder John Bongo. I have been opportune to have a sit talk with the John Bongo due to some reasons, because I actually wanted to be sure of something. Then he tried directing to me that the governing council in Abia State Polytechnic has to do with, there are, just like what my colleague said, he said there are different segments in the polytechnics that once you are not playing along, you become a problem to some of them. So to them, to him, according to what he told me, the reason why during this time he wasn't getting it so far was because he wasn't playing along with the rector. And the rector, there were two different people in a particular factionalization in the same shape. So I think where I think they are having most problems at times is the word factionalizations. Whereas the rector tends to be or to call himself the leader of the polytechnic, while the chairman of the governing council sticks to his own side and tells you that he's the one leading or cheering the needs of the polytechnics. But I think in this case, before I think the appointment should have been made earlier, I think there's a need for calling up both parties, calling them together and making sure that they understand the deeds and don'ts involved in so as to lead the positive limelight of this particular polytechnic. But I think as so much more, I want to lay emphasis on the governing council because I think it is very, very important they understand the functions of the essence of being called a governing council. I think one of the major functions is one, making sure that you give an elastic solutions to any problem you feel or anything you feel that they are not getting right, such as the rectors, the student bodies, and the rest of them. Always calling to order the rector when you feel he's not doing the right thing. But whereas the rector himself tends to be more or feel that he's more superior than the governing council. Therefore, you see that there's going to be power change between both parties. And for that reason, it turns out, at the end of the day, it will turn out to become a problem to both sides.
All right, comrade.
Yes.
Talking about these, what are the supposed functions? And then most of these guys are appointed, both the chairman, secretary, and so on, that are appointed as these members of the governing council. Are they academic prerequisites?
Yes. No, okay, you mean
the board members? The governing?
No. I'm not. I can't ascertain that now.
Okay.
But what I want to say is that do you see, one thing you have to look at is the discretion, whatever lies at the mercy of the governor to do. Yeah. You understand? And that's why you can see a chief going to head a place where you have PhDs, you have associate professors, but then it's a different thing entirely. What I want to say is that if you look at the governing council.
Sorry, during all Joseph Carlos' time, you know, Noko, a well-known business man, was the chairman of the governing council.
Yes, you're right.
That was right. You see, you just you knew where I was coming from. I was saying chief, and probably the person you mentioned will also be a chief. I said chief. I was intentional about it when I said chief, but God rest his soul, Chief Okocha of blessed memory. Yes, these things happen. You understand? But like my brother just pointed out something, it's very, very strategic. It's very important. We have to be careful and cautious because of the role the Senate or the governing council plays. What is that role? One, they are there to also vet academic competence of the institution. One, if a lecturer or if there is a problem, you understand, they can make recommendations to the effect that maybe another person is brought to replace some person, you understand? And most cases, mind you too, they sit on the results before you push the results out. Before students are mobilized for NYSC, the governing council or the Senate will have to sit, you understand, and make sure that the results are in tandem. In which case they begin to do what interface with the department, with the faculty, and what. So their duty is not one you do or you just overlook, but it's very, very important. We understand that in making this appointment, consideration must not necessarily be this person is coming from my place. I remember vividly in the year 2005, what happened in Niger State University. There was that assumption that a certain man was going to emerge as the VC. But the man, God rest his soul, he's late now, he taught me anyway. When he was giving his inaugural lecture, he said something that struck me. He said, at a point in the history of his academic life in this university, that people who were bearing or answering the same name with him became threatening species. Became threatening species. And at the same time, we now saw how appointments were being made. Ever since then, it has followed the same pattern. If a governor emerges, someone from his community or nearby community will become a VC. Another person is being like that. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, what is the result? To what end has this appointment, this kind of appointment served Abia?
Okay.
In terms of academic innovation, academic breakthrough, and academic excellence.
All right. Yeah. Having said that, Polymath, do you think that most of these appointments, don't you think that some of them are political conversation?
Yes, they are. They are political conversations. Whether you like it or not, I think that is just it. Because you won't tell me that if the governor doesn't or haven't heard about you before, possibly he didn't play a vital role during this election, and you just expect him to see a list and accept possibly your qualifications or whatever thing that it is not. It's just not possible. But I think it has to do with, one, the role you played during the elections and the positive vibrance you gave while all those election periods are going on. And this is the essence of the election. If you can go through the list, you go through the list. I think I can be able to tell you some of the roles Dr. Kuro played, the rector, current rector of Abia. Yes. I've been able to make one or two researches during the campaign at Arochukwu. He gave scholarship to some students during the elections. He gave free food to the less privileged, share out money, and the rest of them. So these are roles he played, just to make up way for himself. So I think there's a role played.
All right, comrade. If let's assume it is attached, this political appointment is attached, political compensation is attached to most of these appointments, then how are you sure it's going to help or will continue to help? Because most often you don't just, if it is a compensation, you don't just appoint. Competence is not seen.
Yes, that's how you kill meritocracy or merit, at the order of mediocrity or incompetence. Let me tell you this. It happened in this day that a tertiary institution, because maybe the VC or the rector was someone from the same place from the governor, including, these appointments don't even stop at the rectorship or the vice chancellorship level. It penetrates down to HOD level, even to departments, even to departmental level, even at faculty level. If you're not coming from this place, this constitution will not. I've been privileged to being in an institution where someone was made a VC, a professor, you understand, an associate prof, you understand, not because of the number of journals, articles, or peer review she wrote, but because of where she was coming from. Said it's been long. Someone from that place became a professor. They say they try to do it in a way that, in fact, there are things I don't want to go into. And that happened outside this state. I'm talking about in one of the universities that existed outside this state. Now, within this state too, there was a time a former governor was having a problem with a sitting governor. An institution that awarded him a degree, we do that degree. Why would an institution award a degree?
And we do it.
Without that, it became so political. We all saw that. Later it was also restored. But the question ought to be asked: when does a tertiary institution become an extension of political parties or offices of executive government?
I think within that period, a lot of people blamed the vice chancellor there.
Well, a lot of people called him out.
Yes.
You understand? Whether he was a vice chancellor or a rector, what I'm saying is that Yes, we've seen this happen.
But it happened in Abia here.
It's also happened. Yes, it happened in Abia here.
Yeah.
Understand? So you see that by so
That was
doing,
when they wanted to make mess of his predecessor.
by so doing, even during the election, someone who was studying law, I think someone who had actually studied law,
Yes.
his own was also revoked or
Yes,
also
yes.
threatened.
It was
You understand?
great.
So this level of politics should not be associated with our institutions of
Institutions,
learning. Institutions that, but you see, everywhere I go, people identify me, historian. I passed through Abia State University, and I'm proud. I'm proud to say it anyway. And in my time, there are people who I know were even better than me. So you can imagine. You can imagine. So now, if we continue to emphasize on politics, how can we bring up people of competence, of character? Remember, the certificate bears the words found worthy in learning and character, which means in addition to learning, being able to make researches and then academic contributions, you must be competent in character, which will allow you to be a good administrator. So to me, I feel we are debasing academic institutions, and I think we should begin to contemplate laws, just like we are recently reforming. We are passing through reformation, where we are now beginning to jettison and then repeal laws that say governors or former governors should be paid. We should also have laws that guarantee and establish the autonomy financially, administratively of tertiary institutions.
Are you talking about autonomy? Local government that was almost granted autonomy.
You know, we've
That's the issue.
been talking about local government as the 10th year of government.
Yes.
Well, I heard educated people here said the problem is that we don't even understand the working structure of Nigerian state. We don't have 774 local government councils. We have 668 with 6 area development councils in Abuja, making it 774. But even governors will say we have 774 because they don't even understand the structure. We keep running around the circles, deceiving ourselves in the name of so we have actually done this at the university level, and we are seeing the results.
All right, wonderful viewers. This is where we'll be drawing the curtain today. Just keep it with us. On Tuesday, we're going to discuss more critical issues as it affects our country and even our state here. From my far left is Polymath Felix. Felix, what do you have for the fact? What do you have for the people based on our discussion today?
Well, thank you very much, fellow viewers. And let me say this openly and straightforward. The truth is this: our governor, Dr. Oti, is actually doing his best, what he knows how to do best, in making sure that we get the right things done at the right time.
Yes, yes.
And if you agree with me, I think he knows best what he needs, and he's following suit. So everybody should just relax, and let's keep praying for him that the people he chooses or appoints will give us that maximum or positive vibes we so wish to. Thank you.
All right, thank you, comrade.
Yes, mine will be like an advice to Dr. Okoro. I'm wishing you well, but I don't want you, if there are mistakes, the previous rectors made, I don't want you to, yes, I don't want you to repeat them. Riding on the crest of a wave, you have to make sure that you do the needful, or that you do the necessary things. Because I remember vividly, I'm also talking to the governor by extension, a former governor of these states. I'm not mentioning the name. There was a time the institution you mentioned, the institution at Arochu, you understand, College of Education, when they were threatening strike, a governor was there when the rector came and said, the staff members and the students will be going on strike. The governor, what he did, from the person who was there, I got to hear this. He asked the people there, do you have anybody in the institution? They said no. He said, oh, you can go on strike, I'm bringing you the key. It happened in this state. So, and I'm happy.
Even what happened?
I'm happy where Governor Alex Oti is today. On account of his emergencies, the strike associated with ABSUT, that one died down. And I was there some time ago. I was very happy. So seeing the facelift he'd given to that institution. But I want him to do more. I am not here to praise or to, but we must ask for more. We must demand more from the government. That's why we elected him. So I am wishing the new rector well. and urging him to be circumspect and sound in the delivery of his duty. Thank you.
All right, wonderful viewers, that's the much we're going to take today. Thank you for being there. Remember, tomorrow is another day. Keep watching Living Television and keep listening to Living Radio 90.9. Having said that, from my far left is Polymath Felix. Thank you for being part of the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm Comrade Nnamdi Elekwachi. Thank you for being here today.
Always my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
And
Goodbye, viewers.
this is your command, Chinedum Godson Adele. Keep it there with us. Bye for now.